The Bible, it promises resurrection. It does not promise a character selection screen. Why not? So there is no passage where the dead return, choose flight, laser vision, or maybe even wall climbing, and then receive 12 minutes to just adjust the costume. But the actual answer is not simply no. So the Christian theology teaches that human beings may receive some kind of transformed bodies that is beyond the limits of our present biology, right? So the question is what that transformation includes and what God could do and what the Bible actually says that he will do. So those are basically three different questions. So first we need to define what happens after death. People often use heaven, paradise, the afterlife, and the resurrection as if they are the same event. And in many Christian traditions, they're not. So death may involve some kind of intermediate state in the presence of God, but the final Christian hope is that then there is some kind of general resurrection, then there is judgment and life in a renewed creation, right? So the exact description, it differs between traditions. So Catholic, historic Protestant, Orthodox Christianity, it all affirm that there is a bodily resurrection, but they do not explain every part in this exactly the same way. So the main question is, it's not whether a disembodied soul can wear a Spider-Man suit. Why not? Why not? So the main question concerns the transformed person after the resurrection, right? So the central biblical text is 1 Corinthians. It's in chapter 15. And Paul asks what kind of body the dead will possess after they die. His answer, it uses the image of a seed. The seed and the final plant have continuity, right? But they're not identical in either appearance or condition. So Paul describes the current body as weak, mortal, and subject to decay. And the resurrected body is raised in power and no longer ruled by death. He calls it the spiritual body. And that phrase does not mean some kind of transparent ghost, right? It's not. It means a body transformed and fully animated by the Spirit. The body remains real. It simply does no longer operate under the complete set of problems, included with the present model. So Philippians also speaks about the transformation of the human body to resemble some kind of to resemble the glorified body of Christ. And Romans speaks about the redemption of the body and the renewal of creation, right? So Revelation describes a world without death, mourning, or pain. These are significant promises, but they describe the form of human life that exceeds present biological limits. But none of them describe flight. Maybe some of them does. But they do not mention web shooters. They do not provide the minimum force required to lift a bus, and the Bible is unusually silent regarding the cinematic universe. So 1 John gives the most responsible limit. It says that what we will be has not yet been fully revealed. That does not mean that nothing has been revealed. It means that the available information is just kind of incomplete, right? So we know that transformation is promised, right? We just do not possess the technical manual. People sometimes respond by pointing to the resurrected Jesus. So in the gospel accounts, Jesus appears in ways that do not seem kind of limited by just some kind of ordinary physical conditions. He enters places despite closed doors. He appears, he disappears. So he's physical enough to be touched and to eat and drink wine. So this sounds promising for anyone currently designing some kind of travel plan. Right? But Jesus occupies a unique place in Christian theology. No shit. So it's difficult to determine which details reflect the general condition of a resurrected human body and which details relate specifically to Christ. So the text does not say that every resurrected person will receive teleportation, but it points to that direction. It also does not say that Jesus entered the room because the door was physically irrelevant. Maybe he just opened. Maybe. So the disciples were dealing with several larger issues and maybe did not complete. So historic Christian theology has sometimes described qualities of the glorified body. Medieval Catholic theology, they developed 4 famous categories. So the first is freedom of suffering and corruption, which is a good thing itself. And the second is complete readiness of the body to follow the person's will. And the third concerns the body's perfect relation to the spiritual life. And the fourth is glory or brightness. So these concepts, they're sometimes translated into some kind of modern superhero language. Freedom from suffering becomes kind of invulnerability, right? And readiness becomes super speed. And the transformed relation to matter, well, it becomes walking through walls. And brightness becomes energy attack. And that translation is kind of entertaining, right? It is also doing work that the original theology did not authorize. The concept described a perfected human condition. They are not a product description, right? So Catholic teaching, it affirms that the resurrected body will be transformed and free from death, while admitting also that the exact mechanism exceeds human understanding. And also, historic Protestant teaching also emphasizes continuity, right? So the dead rise as the same persons with their own bodies, but with different qualities. So Orthodox Christianity, it strongly rejects the idea that salvation simply means that you're escaping the body forever. It's more that the entire person is restored and transformed. So Orthodox theology also speaks about theosis, which means participation in divine life by grace. It does not mean becoming some kind of independent God. So you do not receive omnipotence or create a private universe and begin answering prayers from a regional office. It's not. The point is communion with God and not personal promotion. And Judaism contains its own diverse traditions regarding the resurrection and the world to come. Some traditional Jewish sources, they strongly affirm bodily resurrection. So now we can ask the larger question. Could God give a resurrected person some kind of abilities that resemble superpowers? According to classical theology, God can do anything that is genuinely possible and consistent with his nature. So that does not mean that contradictions become real. God cannot create a square circle because square circle does not describe a possible object. It's more like a disagreement between two words in a way. I don't know, it's not the point. But a human body capable of flight is not a logical contradiction. Neither is extreme strength, unusual movement, or even perception beyond our current senses. So animals already possess abilities that humans do not. Birds navigate through the air. Some creatures can detect electric fields. Others see forms of light that is invisible to us. So the present creation, it contains a surprising amount of biological disrespect. So a creator giving a transformed person some kind of capabilities that is beyond current humanity, it's not difficult to imagine at all. And the important distinction is this. God could do it. The resurrected body will be transformed, and the Bible does not say each person will choose some kind of comic book power, but all three statements can be true at the same time. This is where theology becomes less satisfying than a video game, though. It refuses to convert possibility into a confirmed future. So there is also a difference between becoming Spider-Man and receiving abilities similar to Spider-Man, because Spider-Man is not simply a person who climbs a wall. He has an identity, he has memories, relationships, responsibilities, and a specific history of avoidable emotional damage, or not. So becoming Spider-Man in the literal sense would mean becoming Peter Parker. So that creates a problem of identity. So if God removes your memories and replaces your biography and gives you Peter Parker's mind, you have not become Spider-Man. You've been replaced by Spider-Man, if it makes sense. And this is kind of a poor reward system. So receiving similar abilities, it's much easier to imagine. So a resurrected person could hypothetically climb, fly, move quickly, or maybe even possess unusual physical power without becoming a fictional character. And then there's Hulk. Hulk creates another problem. So Hulk is often connected to rage, psychological division, and loss of control, which a shit ton of people share this with. Perfected person reserving enormous amount of strength is conceivable. A perfected person remaining trapped in a destructive anger, well, it's less compatible with the concept of healing. So you may receive this strength. You probably do not receive the untreated trauma that is required to activate it. God forbid. So that sounds like an improvement, right? So the Bible also describes spiritual gifts during earthly life, right? These include healing, prophecy, knowledge, and miracles. But Paul, he explains that these gifts exist for the common good. They are not proof that one Christian has achieved a higher combat level. A gift of healing matters only because illness exists. So a miraculous rescue matters because danger exists. So in a renewed creation without death and suffering, many traditional superhero functions would just become completely unnecessary. So there is no need for invulnerability when nothing can destroy you. There's no need to fight crime when injustice has ended. And there's no need to rescue people from death when death no longer exists. So Batman's entire operating model would lose its market. He would need a hobby. But this raises a better possibility. So if unusual abilities existed in the renewed creation, perhaps they would not exist for combat. Maybe they could serve exploration, art, movement, creation, play, or even knowledge, right? A person might fly because flight is joyful, not because a building is falling. And someone might possess enormous strength without needing an enemy. A transformed body could experience reality in many ways that our current sense cannot support. That is possible. It is also speculation. But the Bible leaves enough space for imagination, but not enough information for confidence, of course. And the desire for superpowers is not automatically immature or sinful. I think it may just express the wish to protect people. It may express the freedom from a disability, fear, age, or maybe even physical limits. It may also reflect curiosity, and it may also reflect the desire for control, admiration, or revenge. Power you want, it's more like why you want it. And we all know that Christian teaching, it consistently places love above power. So 1 Corinthians says that even the most impressive spiritual abilities, it becomes empty without love. So the final transformation is not only physical, it's not. The person must also become capable of using any gift without any superiority, cruelty, domination. And that may perhaps be the most unrealistic part for us, sadly. Because if superpowered people exist, it probably would become like the Boys, the series, the TV show. It's more likely gonna be fucked up like that. Because humanity has difficulty of just receiving free parking without developing some kind of superiority complex. And the identity question also remains. If your body changes completely, are you even still you? Christian theology generally answers yes. So the person is preserved through God's knowledge and action. So your body already changes throughout your ordinary life. Your cells change, your appearance change, your abilities change, but you remain connected to your history, your memories, or relationships, except if you have Alzheimer's. Sorry. So transformation does not automatically erase identity. The resurrected person is not supposed to be a copy. It is the same person restored and renewed. So could you remain yourself and receive an ability resembling Spider-Man? There is no logical reason that this would be impossible for God. And there's also no biblical text that promises it, obviously. So the Bible promises bodily resurrection. It promises transformation, it promises freedom from death, corrupting, and suffering, but it leaves many details unknown. So God could give a person flight, extraordinary movement, speed, no physical power, but could is not will. And possibility is not prophecy. So perhaps the deeper answer is that, the world to come, maybe it removes the conditions that made us have desire for superpowers in the first place, maybe. So we want strength maybe because we are vulnerable. We want speed because time is limited. We want healing because our bodies fail, we might die. We want to save everyone because people die, people suffers. And the biblical promise, it does not guarantee that you become Superman. It does not. I think it just offers a world where Superman is just no longer required, if it makes sense.